Distinguished colleagues on the dais, Dr. S.P. Agnihotri, Mr. Sudhir Vasudeva, Mr. Alok Parthi, Mr. Robert Armstrong, Mr. Benjamin Sporton, Ms. Melanie Kendadine, and all distinguished delegates, welcome to the PetroCoal Congress once again. At the outset, a few apologies for running a little behind time. We are today eclipsed by a Make in India, as Dr. Prasad Rao was mentioning. The entire country seems to have assembled there. We want to make in India, and you know, when we make things in India, we normally employ 5 times more labor than we do in other parts of the world. But we are so happy that the event is being attended by distinguished delegates, and it comes at a time when the energy sector is going through tremendous transformation. In fact, one of the key economic fora of the world had mentioned that one of the great challenges which is facing the world today, one of them is the energy price shock. And for once, the energy price shock is not with the prices going up, it is with the prices coming down. The other transformation change that is going through is that the way we use energy and what form of energy we use is undergoing a transformational change. The environment has meant that we want to decarbonize energy and its use. New renewables in the form of solar, wind, maybe wave energy in the times to come, these are the energies of the future. But the bulwark of energy continues to be the fossil fuel sector, and as many distinguished delegates have said today, speakers, it will continue to be dominating for the next few decades. Almost, I'd say, many decades ago, one of the most distinguished statesmen in global politics, Otto von Bismarck, said, "A statesman is a politician who thinks of his children and not of himself." I think similarly, thinkers and economic thinkers and technology thinkers don't think of themselves today. They've got to think of their children and their grandchildren. For that to happen, I think they have to be prepared for change. And change is the essence of evolution and progress. If there was no change, there's no purpose of science, technology, conferences like this, seminars. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. You don't need scientific and technical prowess to change that, nor can you change it. Change has to come. The only thing that we must watch out is that the change is for better and not for worse. The changes that are coming today, we've got to, I think, classify them as changes which are transient, changes which are cyclical, and changes which are here to stay. What are the risks? What are the threats? And what are the opportunities? This, I think, is largely going to decide the deliberations in the next 3 days. The energy use worldwide is set to grow 1/3 more by 2040. It is going to be driven primarily by India, China, Africa, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. And that's why there is significance of this PetroCoal Congress being held in this part of the world. The non-OECD countries are going to account for virtually the entire increase in global energy use. In fact, the European Union energy use till 2040 is supposed to decline 15%, Japan by 12%, the US by 3%. And non-fossil fuels share in global energy mix is set to increase from 19% to 25% by 2040. Only the share of natural gas among the present fossil fuels is set to increase. Today, 17% of the global population still, that is about 1.2 billion, is without electricity, and 2.7 billion use traditional biomass for cooking, which accounts for 38% of the global population. Despite all the programs and all the global resolutions, by 2030 it is estimated that 800 million in this globe will still be without electricity, and 2.3 billion will be without access to clean fuels for cooking. The coal share in the global energy mix is set to rise to 29% today, from 23% in 2000. It has met 45% of the increase in global energy demand from 2005 to 2015, but it will meet only 10% of the increase till 2040, and that too largely in India and Southeast Asia. By 2040, Asia will account for 80% of the global coal use. The European consumption is set to drop 67%. And the OECD consumption is set to drop 40%. Again, non-OECD countries will account for 7 out of 8 additional units of electricity demand globally. And why I talk of electricity? Because electricity is set to account for 25% of final energy consumption by 2040. But at the same time, it will also lead the way for a decarbonized energy system. We expect greater use of electric vehicles, the main source of transportation, hopefully maybe another few decades. But today, oil and gas will continue to be a strategic input for major activities like defense, air transport, sea freight, and railroad. In fact, even for heavy industry. I do not visualize in the coming decades that either solar or wind are going to replace these commodities. And as Alok mentioned a few days ago, we were in a discussion. Even in the Second World War, Germany had realized that you have to convert coal to gas and coal to liquid. I think fossil fuels will continue to have extreme strategic importance. The transportation revolution which is taking place, which is bringing individual vehicles to a large number of poorer people across the world, is continuing to rely on petroleum products. Now, which way is this going to lead us? I think one of the first things we have to look at, which we've been discussing today, is that coal must look at cleaner uses. ICCG, we've been talking about. Advanced ultra-supercritical generators, and coal to liquid and gas. Petroleum and gas must look at greater efficiencies in their end uses. And energy extraction costs must come down. Talking from the viewpoint of the fossil fuels competing with the newer fuels, it is imperative that the costs of extraction have to come down substantially. The days of hegemony and the days of maximum extraction of profits for these commodities, I think, has come to a close. Even coal, people are finding that it is better to probably mine the coal domestically and use it rather than import it. Imports of coal, though substantial in a country like India, are not looking very bright in the future. At the same time, the environment demands that we change the way we use these commodities. The pressures, the social pressures, the awareness, the monitoring that is going on today is much more severe than it was a few decades ago. And it is not going to be difficult to trap down the culprits, and probably in the coming years, those who are not using energy in a cleaner way may have to pay heavy economic damages. Now, this threat itself could drive many companies which are using energy in not a clean manner to financial hurt and deprivation. A meet like this is meant to stimulate discussion on the way forward. How do we use energy in a cleaner way? How do we extract energy in a cleaner way? How do we bring about synergy in the different forms of energy? After all, the ultimate purpose is that we've got to serve mankind, and it must serve an economic purpose. It must be economically viable to run that industry and to stay in that industry. Only the fittest will survive. The greater use of energy is going to come from countries and populations who cannot afford higher costs of energy. In India today, we have a problem of the power plants running at about 60% PLF across the country. When I was Secretary Power, I would have been mad at people that you were running below 80%. But where are the buyers? People are ready to buy power only at half the cost of some of the costs which are being thrown up by some of the newer plants. And they have a very dim chance of selling their power. The moral of the story is, if we have to survive, we must run more efficiently, run in a more clean manner, and serve society, bring greater people into the fold of prosperity, and upgrade our skills so that energy is produced and consumed in the most efficient manner. I'm thankful to all our distinguished delegates who've come here today and will be with us for the next 3 days. I wish them great success, and my congratulations to all the award winners who have served mankind, have served the sector, and we have been honored by honoring them. Thank you very much.